Hey, comic book fans and trekkers everywhere. This is Nana Visitor. I was Alan Dolan in The Spirit and Major Kira Nerys in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you are listening to Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life.
Welcome one and all to Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life, the world's first podcast devoted exclusively to in-depth interviews with the talented folks who bring comics to life in film, television, animation, video games, podcasts, and beyond. I am your host, Joe Stuber, back once again in the lair. It has been a minute since we all got together, that's for sure. Took a little bit of a break, but I am back, well-rested, looking forward to taking a look back, actually, at one of my favorite adventures. Tail end of last year, I got to attend a really cool comic and pop culture convention that is now in my backyard of Columbus, Ohio. That would be GalaxyCon. Second time I've attended, and I've been able to bring you all a little flavor of the show. If you haven't been there, you definitely want to make plans for later this year, December 6th through the 8th. That's when the next GalaxyCon in Columbus is going to be. But if you can't make that Columbus show, there are GalaxyCon shows all around. Coming up, there is Richmond, Virginia, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Raleigh, North Carolina, San Jose, California, and they have animation events as well. GalaxyCon.com, that's where you want to be for locations and ticket information. I'm going to put that link in the show notes for this episode at my website, comicbookcentral.net, so you can go right there. You can see all the GalaxyCon shows that are going on around the country. Now, here in Columbus, man, I'm telling you, I was stoked to be able to meet up in person with many of my previous guests that I've only been able to talk to over the phone or over Zoom. Talents like Star Trek's Todd Stashwick, he was here on the show recently, got to meet him in person. Walter Koenig, OG Star Trek, he was one of my early guests. Finally got to meet him in person. Denise Crosby, got to meet up with her. Of course, Brent Spiner was there. If Brent Spiner's in Ohio, I always bring him pie. You know that. You longtime listeners know that. They've all been on the show for in-depth chats, but for those ones that I haven't got to meet in person, that was so cool. And someone you're going to be hearing from on today's show, Nana Visitor from Deep Space Nine. She was here back on episode 125. Got to finally catch up with her in person at GalaxyCon to talk about a new book that she has written. You're going to really enjoy hearing about that. Also, speaking of previous guests who write, author John Jackson Miller. For you listeners of the IndieCast, I also appear on that podcast, My Further Adventures of Indiana Jones partner Keith Voss and I, we interviewed John on that show for the 10th anniversary of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. John wrote the comic book adaptation of the film. You can hear that interview on the IndieCast. It's episode 265, but I've also posted all of our Further Adventures segments that were on the IndieCast. I've posted all of those on my Comic Book Central YouTube channel. So you want to go there, subscribe, and then you can check out that chat with John Jackson Miller. That's episode 70 on the YouTube channel of Further Adventures, but you can check out tons, over 90 episodes we have there, different interviews and segments, comic book reviews, all kinds of cool Indiana Jones stuff. John also writes Star Wars and Star Trek books, so it was fun to catch up with him. Lots to talk about. We're going to talk about his latest books. Oh man, it's going to be fun. Then rounding out my guest list for today's show, going to go behind the scenes at GalaxyCon with the man who is running around the shows all weekend long, hosting tons of Q&As with celebrity guests. Patty Hawkins will drop by to talk about what goes into putting together those memorable moments during the celebrity Q&As. All right, big show to get to today. So glad you're all here. First, check this out. I'm going to pay a few bills. Then I will be right back to talk Trek. And welcome back to the show, Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Nana Visitor. Welcoming Nana back to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time. Here at GalaxyCon, it's looking like there's so much of your Trek family, which has been growing and growing and growing and growing year by year. What's it like when you get together? And I saw who your airplane seatmate was. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yes, Walter was my seatmate. He always causes trouble for me when we fly together. He told the flight attendant, "This woman is bothering me. Please remove her." And it's, you know...
Is that a true story? Did he really?
Oh, yes. Oh, he's constantly doing that. He's always telling people, and, you know, he looks very frail when he's saying it. And
he's not.
And he's not. No. He shuffles like, you know, he's having trouble, and he has no trouble walking. So,
acting.
Acting big time. But
did anything happen? Was there an incident? Was there? I mean,
no.
You don't do that on an airplane.
No. I know, but they had a sense of humor about it, and I immediately said, Walter, you can't do that, and she got the idea right away.
What's it like when you get together and talk about even like some of the newer Trek cast mates, because there's so many new shows now, and even an animated series?
Well, you know, I got to know everyone on a deeper, different level. I interviewed a lot of people for the book that I wrote about the women of Star Trek called Open a Channel, and it was fascinating to talk to the younger women on Star Trek, on Strange New Worlds, on Discovery, Sonequa, how much there is a shift in not just being aware of what's being put out, but also the culture of the show, and being kind and compassionate and aware of others. And I'm so happy for that. And it seems that women are being treated much better.
I was going to say, because I've talked to yourself, I talked to Terry Farrell, and it just seems like it was such a different world back then. What's the feedback you're getting now? And does that mean you might want to rejoin Star Trek here at some point?
I would never not want to rejoin Star Trek, because I believe that the storytelling of this franchise matters very, very much, and I've got solid proof. I talked to so many people who chose to go into STEAM jobs and careers because they were inspired by the hope and the fact that you are not alone in the future in Star Trek. It's a very hopeful future, and this is my takeaway. I am thrilled that when I ask the young women today, how would you feel if this happened, or if someone said this to you, stuff that just was rolled off my back because it was every day, they would be horrified. They would be like, are you kidding? I burned down buildings. And that makes me so happy. There has been progress.
But it's because, I think, of actresses like yourself that were pushing through all those things, and that were saying things at the time. So I think a lot of that, you and your fellow Trek mates built the foundation for that.
It's pushing the envelope, and it takes a long time. But look, I stood on the shoulders of the women that came before me, and that's what Nichelle and the women of Next Gen. So I'm proud to be part of the cement and the bricks of this structure that we're building.
Yeah, Marina and Denise, they weren't known to take a whole lot of guff and Gates McFadden, so you guys all did it. They're talking about legacy characters. We're seeing these legacy characters come back in Picard. First of all, have you seen the latest season of Picard, and any talk of Deep Space Nine characters maybe returning?
I have seen it, and I love it all, and I love Strange New Worlds. I think that is such a great addition to the franchise. But all those decisions, I would be the last to know. Frankly, I remember being asked at a convention, how do you feel about Michael Dorn joining the cast? And it was the way I found out Michael Dorn was joining the cast.
Oh, wow.
So I would be the very last person to know any decision that was being made. But like I said, I felt so lucky being able to be a storyteller with good stories to tell that made a difference to people.
So it looks like you're going to be at Terrificon in August. The book, so give us the name again, and can we pre-order it yet, or is it we're close?
I believe you can.
Okay.
And it's called Open a Channel.
Nice. We'll have plenty to talk about in August, that's for sure. I want a copy of it, and I want to read it before we chat.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you again for your time.
Very welcome.
Star Trek Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek will be available later this year. You can pre-order the book right now. I'm going to put a link to do just that in the show notes for this episode on my website, comicbookcentral.net. You're going to want to go and get that. And yes, you heard right. Nana's going to be attending this year's Terrificon. Yeah, I'm always at Terrificon. I love that show. She's going to be there with other Trek guests. Terrificon.com. Make your plans now. I hope to see you all there. All right, next up, whether you're a Star Trek fan, a Star Wars fan, an Indiana Jones fan, if you're a fan of all of the above, of course you are, right? We love all those. I've got you covered as I will now bring you my conversation with author John Jackson Miller. Get to talk, first of all, before we talk some Indiana Jones, tell me what you're up to. What's the latest and greatest? What should we be reading? What should we be giving you our money for right now? And how can we get our hands on it?
On sale currently is my Star Trek novel, Strange New Worlds, The High Country. One of the fun things about that is it is the first Star Trek novel with planetary maps. So you can actually follow the characters on their journey as they try to escape a strange new world without using any technology at all, because this is a planet where technology doesn't work. So we literally are traveling, as the old joke was, wagon train to the stars. We're traveling by horse, by ship, by sled, all of these by air. All of these things come up in this book. So that is Strange New Worlds, The High Country, out from Simon & Schuster.
Did you get to meet the cast at all? Did you get to meet up with anybody?
Oh yeah, I met Anson Mount and Ethan Peck back when I did my first Enterprise War novel, is what it was called.
Okay.
Using that cast. I also met Celia Rose Gooding, who plays Uhura, because Uhura is a major character in my book.
Okay.
And so that was fun.
Nice way to do research. Good work if you can get it.
Yeah, to meet these folks. And so I did I did that. The other thing that I have that is coming out in early 2024, April 9th, is when Star Wars The Living Force comes out. And it is the first novel starring the Jedi Council. All 12 members of the Jedi Council have significant roles in it. Also Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And basically, it is a case where Qui-Gon confronts the Council. This is a year before Phantom Menace. He confronts the Council and challenges them to get out of the house. You know, the ivory tower.
Yeah.
And to meet the
Those
people.
comfy chairs. Get out of the comfy chairs.
And so it becomes a road trip.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fun.
Okay. And fair to say Kenobi's one of your favorite characters, if not maybe your favorite character?
One of my favorite characters, Indiana Jones as well. I was just...
You walked me into it.
Walk you into it.
You walked me right into it.
You know,
Okay.
I was telling my friend about the Indiana Jones story, which didn't begin as an Indiana Jones story, but it started as a story of my own. But back in high school, I wrote an Indiana Jones story that I ended up adapting a part of the spirit of it in a novel I wrote a couple of years ago called Rogue Elements for Star Trek Picard, which actually has a puzzle, a symbol puzzle that involves elements of alchemy and cosmology and various other things. And some of that I lifted from what I would have done had I gotten to do what I was hoping to do following the King of the Crystal Skull, and had there been further comics, further original stories,
right.
I was ready to do something with that. You know, I'm an environmentalist writer. I use ideas again, or if I don't find a place for them, I find some way to use them.
Everything gets repurposed at some point, especially when you're writing. And I think after Crystal Skull, I mean, we talked about your adaptation. We wanted more. We didn't get more, but my goodness, Dial of Destiny, I thought we'd get something, and we got nothing. Any idea why? I mean, I know the movie didn't do as well as they want, but come on, even a comic book, right?
No, I spoke to John Rhys-Davies in at a convention here early in 2024, and he was not expecting that there would be much. And as I started talking around to the various licensees, I found that nobody had actually picked up the license.
Yeah.
And it is simply a matter of Indiana Jones never was that successful in print. That's not what they told me. That's my perception. You had the novelizations, and you had, I guess it was the Rob McGregor, was that whoever
Rob McGregor novels, the Marvel comic, and some Dark Horse, but it didn't blow up like Star Wars.
The thing that worked probably best was the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, simply because they had the device of it's a 2-issue storyline, and there's always going to be a cliffhanger, and we're going to focus on a different side character each time, whether it's Captain Katanga or Jock or somebody else from the series. And that worked out, I thought, fairly well as it could. But the problem is, and particularly on the comic side, I found this out, the kinetic nature of what happens in an Indiana Jones movie is almost too fast, even for a superhero comic. I was challenged with doing the opening sequence of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and he's doing things like throwing the
pellets, the pellets in the air,
the pellets in the air,
climbing boxes and swinging and crashing,
and swinging. And how do you depict that in a reasonable number of panels, and have people understand what's going on? Much less the races through the jungle, and so it's just a little bit hard to do, and even harder to carry that off in a book form. And so, I am pleased with what I did in the Rogue Elements novel in Picard, where I was able to actually, wrap a historical mystery in the Star Trek universe, and in that context, I was able to, wrap that around various episodes of Daring Do. I even have a 1948 car go racing on a crazed journey on the deck of a spaceship.
Is it okay if we put a fedora on him mentally as we read it? Is that okay with you?
Well, there are plenty of fedoras in that book because that novel is about the owner of the spaceship that we see in the Picard series. He bought it from the mobsters from the mobster planet in the 1930s, and I got to have. This is why it was completely normal to have. There are a lot of fedoras in that book because all of the mobsters from the mobster planet are still running around. So again, there's always a chance to mash things up and do them a different way, and I felt that was a really successful attempt at it. But it just simply is a matter of I don't know why the license wasn't picked up, other than the fact that it probably the last time it was
gun shy.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I don't know. It's also a different matter if you think there's going to be a follow-on, if you think there's going to be a bunch of further stuff.
Right.
If the sense is that it's the very last thing, well, we already had the experience in Star Wars in 1983, where people started dropping the licenses because they didn't think there'd be anything else.
So I asked nervously, did you like Dial of Destiny?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good enough.
My daughter is an archaeology student. She's not actually going to be doing any archaeologist will tell you there's nothing at all real in the series. But I like the fact that it shows respect for the history, and it really does show. Particularly, spoiler free, but anybody listening to your podcast is going to have seen it.
They'll have seen it.
At the end, the notion that he's really there about the history, and that's what he really cares about. And having him show up there at the end, where he was, I think that was just a wonderful way to finish it.
We want the high country. We want the living force. Where do we go to get them?
All right. Well, those will be available at your bookstores. My website is farawaypress.com, where I've got links to all the new books coming out. But people can find me on the internet JJM Faraway on Twitter or whatever they're calling that this week. John Jackson Miller on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads, and I am farawaypress.com on Blue Sky. So whatever other social media are going to be invented, I'll have something somewhere.
John, thanks again for joining me.
I enjoyed it.
Farawaypress.com is the online home for all things John Jackson Miller. Of course, I'm going to put that link in the show notes as well, so you can just go to comicbookcentral.net, go to the show notes for this episode. You get all the links to the things we talked about. Go get those incredible tales that we talked about, and be sure to tell them Stuberman sent you. Okay, many of you listeners out there have been to comic book and pop culture conventions all across the country. You've attended these wildly entertaining celebrity Q&As. They're always saying, maybe you've been to some of the Q&As that I have hosted over the years. I hope those ones are wildly entertaining as well. But have you ever wondered what goes into putting on those events at these conventions? My next guest is going to pull back the curtain and give us the inside story. Going to flip the script today. I've got the questions. He's going to be answering them this time. Time to sit down with GalaxyCon's Patty Hawkins. Well, if you have been to GalaxyCon, you more than likely have seen my guest today all around the event. He has hosted over 1,000 Q&As at the shows, both live, on stage, and virtually. He's also an actor and content creator. Time to welcome in Patty Hawkins. Patty, welcome to Comic Book Central.
Welcome, friends and fans, to another edition of Comic Book Central. We're bringing the convention experience directly to you. Today, we're... okay, all right.
Do I got to pay you for that? No, wait a minute. Do I owe you something?
You don't owe me anything. We might own GalaxyCon something for say.
That's true. You are a very enthusiastic man. That comes across on the stage. Look, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to catch up with you in Columbus. Every time I saw your head in areas running from venue to venue, right? Does that sound about right? Like, I was at somebody's table and I looked over and there's Patty running by, and I was going to grab an interview and I'm like, hey, he looks a little busy. He looks a little busy.
I usually am. The deck is really stacked for me, especially on weekends. Friday is not too bad, or if it's a 4-day show.
Friday was you were running. Friday you were running and gunning.
I probably was, because even if I look at my schedule, it's not too bad. There's always little small fires I'm asked to put out. Oh, hey, can you cover this? Can you give this person notes? Can you, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I'm seeing people coming up and hitting you with questions too. So you're like peppered with questions. I'm guessing probably So for fans of these events, and there's so many of them out there now, like we're going to conventions, we're doing things. Kind of tell somebody like what a typical weekend is for you at one of these events at GalaxyCon.
As a host or a talent person?
Sure.
Well, okay. Let's do it like my preferred gig being host
just what
MC.
The whole weekend is for you, like, because you're recovering now from a weekend as a little inside baseball here.
Well, like I said, I have two jobs at the conventions. One, my preferred one is host MC. And then I have a backup one, which is I work for an appearance agent who handles a lot of the Star Trek talent, including William Shatner. So I have been at shows with William Shatner, and I'm the guy taking care of him. I'm like, okay, Bill, 5 more minutes. We got to go to the photo op, and let's go over there. All right, Patty, lead the way. Whatever, stuff like that too. My main thing though is that as I call it a host, I despise the term moderator. I acquiesce that is the industry term. I've always said that political debates and peace treaties and divorces are moderated. If you're on a stage talking about cape swords and ray guns, there's no need for that kind of formality. It's just look, let's all have fun, and let's see what I could do to make it fun for the talent, because we're talking whether it's comics, film, whatever their profession is. A lot of them have been asked the same 10 questions for years, in some cases decades. So my goal is to try to like shake them out of that, re-engage them, and hey, before we get to the big stuff, can we talk about this little TV movie made in 1983? Because I happened to catch that and thought it would do a great job. It's
right. So let's dig into that a little bit, because a lot of people don't realize that. I've moderated. I've hosted many Q&As myself. I don't know that people realize the amount of work that goes into that, because you can't just really hit a stage cold, can you? I mean, technically, I guess you could and turn over the audience.
I have done it before. I have been thrown in the deep end a lot of times, but here's the way my usual Muppet answer is: look, maybe we need you to cover this anime panel for this one specific show. All right, well, I don't know anything about it. On the way, I'll Google it real quick. Give it okay. It's all right. It's another kids go to school, learn how to use their magic powers or superpowers, and have adventures. Okay, fine, boom. Well, I know voice acting and I know that process. And so as long as I know the characters' names, the way too. So I always say, give me 15 minutes and I can take the plane off. I can land it without losing everybody's there. I can ask some basic upfront questions about, hey, had this happened? What's his favorite moment? Okay, great. Let's turn it over to the audience, and then I do my thing where I jump in the audience and actually hold the microphone and take the
Right,
questions.
right. You do the Phil Donahue thing. You jump in. And again,
Oh,
I'm making a reference that most folks probably won't get. I'm praying that you get the Phil Donahue reference.
Oh no, I set off to myself. I say like I'll do okay, I may do this Phil Donahue style where I'll go around, and if you're old
And
enough to
nobody
get that,
gets
if
what
you're
you're
old enough, and I say, and if you're old enough to get that reference, God bless you. Hey, I
Yes.
see you nodding your head. So
Yes,
I'll throw it out
exactly.
there. Well, I'll either do one line or sometimes depending there's certain criteria where maybe I'll go around and take hands. And when I do that, I kind of go by sections where okay, I'll take one person in their hand in the front quarter here, and then the second quarter, and I'll do a clockwise thing. So I'll go and get
Right.
one person from each section with the amount of time that I've got. And that depends on maybe the talent is a little but this way. I did it with Alec Baldwin recently at another show. And
This was
because
Still CityCon recently. I think it was his first. Is it still
yes,
CityCon? Pittsburgh?
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and he was obviously a lot of stuff going on in his world, and so that way I said, "Well, let
To
me go
say
on
the
out,
least.
and that way I can size the people up, and I can be like, okay,
Yeah.
this I can read their energy. This person seems inoffensive. Okay, this person seems all right. This person, this guy, I was talking, and that's why I poll the audience too. It's like, okay, I know this guy loves the shadow. He's gonna ask about the shadow.
Right.
He's gonna, I'll roll the dice on that too, as opposed to a line where I'm going to deal with whoever comes up next in that line. And
Yeah.
even then, that's why I'm down there. That's why I'm holding on to it. So I can control the situation a little bit better. As I always say, I hold on the microphone because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, because I got tired of just sitting up there like a bump on the log, just doing nothing. Once I'm done with everything else, do like, and I'm like, now if I get down there, that way I can let the audience know that I'm not trying to block them. I am not trying. A lot of people have this mental thing about moderating that they
Right.
see like we're trying to keep them off. It's like, no, I'm trying to make this better. I am not the doorman. I'm the maitre
Yeah.
d'.
Well, there's
That's
an
way too.
energy to that too, because I've done both. I've been on the stage, and then you turn it over to the guest, and then you are a little bit of a bump on a log at that point. And then at one point, I started doing well. COVID's thrown a little bit of a wrench into some of these things, but now that we're coming, it's like now you can kind of jump in and do that Phil Donahue style, and you don't have the line that blocks the people visually from seeing, because sometimes
Well,
that when that line
usually,
shows up, you're blocking some people, but then you also
ideally,
get that energy that you can go in, and that person, they might be reticent to jump in a line, but they might feel comfortable sitting in their row with their people.
if I can do that, in the bigger houses, I gotta go up the line. So I just gotta be fair at one point.
Right,
As it's a
right.
prerogative too. And
It's
so
a
you're
functional
just
thing.
Yeah, you're just gonna be that way as long as it's one
Right,
line.
right.
Other conventions use the two-line system, which I hate beyond all measure because that means somebody is always going to be next, and then
Yeah,
we're done.
yeah.
Somebody's always gonna be I'm next, and then that would hit a time. With one line, then I'm like, okay, all right, I can get this person, and that's another reason too why it's important for me to ask my questions up front because I'm doing the math. I'm doing okay. If this is somebody I've never hosted with before, then I'm like, okay, this person short, long, great answer. John Reese Davies is wonderful. He doesn't get answer questions. He gives lectures, and they're brilliant. But I warn everybody up front. Okay, I'm going to ask him just one thing, which is basically going to be about his
Hmm.
new graphic novel project that I know he wants to share with you all. Then I'll turn it over to your questions. So by questions, I mean maybe two. But I promise you, you're gonna thoroughly enjoy it. It always is. And John Wesley Shipp is another one. He just goes and walks around. Patty, what was I
What's
talking about? I forgot.
what's your record for keeping John Wesley Shipp in a chair? What's your record? And let me see if I can beat it.
Uh, I had a panel with him and Amanda Pays. He stayed in the chair the
Hmm.
whole time.
No, he
So
didn't,
I'm
because
not
I was
sure if
at that
that.
panel. No, 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 no. I
What
was
did
at that
he?
panel. Well, wait a minute.
Okay.
This would have been in Ohio,
So what do
and
we?
you did an
Yeah.
amazing job, but he
Well, thank
jumped
you.
out of that chair quick.
Did he?
She
Okay.
stayed in. My record
I,
is 8 minutes. My record is 8 minutes with Shipp.
I, I bow out to it. I'm just like, look, if he wants to get up, get up. I'm not one
He's
for, oh, John, please stay in your chair.
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
it's all some
He's
people
gonna get
will,
up. No, I
yeah.
appreciate you saying about the map, because I think that's the part that people don't understand, because they want to
No.
be there. They could be there forever. They could be there all day with but these people do have to get down to the tables. They have to interact with fans. So, and plus you, especially because I think you're running 6 ways to Sunday, you've got that next panel coming up. You're looking at the clock. You're watching these things. You're
And
timing
and
it out.
it's my job.
Yep.
It's not the job of the talent to look at the time. It's
Right.
my job to keep it on time because there's something else coming into that room. And there's another thing that people don't realize. Sometimes those times are hard contracted in.
Exactly.
And if you let them go over, and again, I've never seen, but I've seen contracts where they're like, this contract, this is going to be 50 minutes, and that's it. And another thing too, when people are starting out, is just they don't understand. No, your end time is when they're walking off stage. It's when they're
Yep.
done. It's not when you say, we have time for one more work question. It's like, no, 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 no. And we've
It's
had
5 minutes. Yeah.
in the past, we've had people come on board and I've told them, it's like, you can't do that way too. I'm kind of the drill sergeant when they come on in if
Hmm.
they haven't worked with this
You're the
before.
bad
And I'm
guy.
like,
You have to be the bad
no,
guy.
no, because I'm the teacher. I'm trying to explain to them. It's like, you got to do this, got to do this. And then no, they just sort of sit there and they let it go. Oh, let's do a lightning round. You can't do a lightning round up there. You can do it when you're down there. I'll certainly do it when I'm in that gray area. I literally only have about 6 people in line, but I've got this. And I think I did
Yep.
it with the John Wesley one. I think we went to
Yep.
a lightning round. I was like, hey, let's do a lightning round because it's Flash. And hey,
It's
but
well that
but
and that's what people don't realize, that I've done that before, where they think and your brain is saying, I want to get everybody in. I want to
and
make
hit
sure
yeah.
everybody is represented. They get their question,
I
even if it's not as the 10
I
minute John Reese
I
Davies answer.
I you actually you kind of let that go pretty quick because you just realize you can't save them all. You can't. No, you
You're
can't
on
get
the
everybody to answer the
Titanic.
question. Yeah, literally. And what really just boggles my mind is when I just like let's say I've got like an A-lister like a Karen Gillan, and I've got a line all the way to the back, and
Right.
it's we're not going to get there, and I'm like in my last 5 minute zone where I'm like, okay, I could probably get this and maybe this one too, and I'm still seeing people getting in line, and I'm like, what part in this schedule do you really think we're gonna get from here to
Yeah.
you
They don't care.
in 5 minutes?
They don't
It's
care.
like yeah, I
No, it was
mean,
funny because I had the honor of doing Kevin Conroy's final Q&A. It was Justice
oh
League
wow.
with his other Justice Leaguers. So we had four on the panel, and I saw the line immediately, and I asked no questions. I went right to audience questions, and it was just math. It was just a matter of math the whole way. I went speed round. I got burned on in the comment section. It's like, why is this guy? I know, I get it,
Yeah,
but
no,
you're
no,
like,
no. It's you can't you gotta yeah, you
you
can
gotta do
try to
what
do
you gotta
it,
do.
and yeah, it's honestly it's trial by error, and if you had several ones there, then it's like okay, okay,
Yeah,
Kevin can run it pretty tight, but this person could belong, this person belongs, so you've got to figure in the head how long it's going to take and everything else, and that's why I have the hard rule of if I have a whole group, you have to ask the question to everybody. If you have an individual question about their individual body of work, you do have the table downstairs. Because for
yeah,
two reasons. One, it creates more inclusive. And two, if you let them have the license to do that, then in Just League's point, 99% of the questions will just be Batman related to Kevin.
Right.
And then somebody will ask somebody else about some oddball thing. And then there's always, always one person totally left out. And I have seen people get pissed and just say,
Yeah.
well, if no one's got a question for me, I'm going back to my table. And I have
Yeah.
seen them leave in a huff.
It's
And
tricky.
it
No, I
creates a
notice you
power.
do that. I notice you do that. And it is tricky when you have multiple guests on there. And again, that's your job, is to make sure everybody's included.
Yeah.
And it is a science, it is a skill. And I really appreciate when you do that. You have
Thank
to
you.
have favorites, right? And I'm not going to allow this, like, well, all my kids are favorites. There's got to be an answer to this. You got some favorites that you've hosted over the years? I mean,
Uh,
Shatner, he's got to go to the list, I'm sure.
well, here's the thing about the stuff, the Shatner stuff, which was it, and we you had to have watched them when they came on out because they're recorded and they're in a vault, but we're not allowed to put them on YouTube. Although I think things are in the works, so maybe we're allowed to do that. But that very
I
first
think
one I
it,
did with Shatner, he beat me up. Well, basically, as I tell everybody, it's like he doesn't work with moderators or anything like that. He goes out and he holds court, does his thing, and he's been doing it for decades.
ever.
So fine.
Yep.
So we were feeling it out. So I always joke with everybody that he misconstrued something, and he kind of punched me in the shoulder to see if I would flinch, metaphorically. And I went down, and literally at the office, they're like, "Oh God, Patty's going down. Patty, oh no!" Then I
Oh,
kind of popped back
you
up.
physically took a dive.
No, no, no. I metaphorically because it was just
Oh,
like
metaphor.
this.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So he kind of was just like, hmm. And then I went down, I popped back up, and I made a gag. And for a second, there was a pause. He was like, okay, okay, okay. So he knew I could take a punch. He knew I could take a joke. He knew I could keep on going. And
Yeah.
after that, it was the smoothest of sailing. But that was it. But I never thought in my lifetime that William Shatner would know my name, would be glad to see me, that he would have that I would have his phone number in my phone, or that my phone number would be in his phone.
Right.
I never
Right.
thought that that would be in this world. So that's the way too. As far as some other, well, the Justice League Batman ones were superb
Yeah.
because that was just a big group and it was really, I really had fun virtually with the big groups. It was nice orchestrating them, getting everybody equally. Those were fun. In person, sometimes it'd be a little wacky. Yeah, I don't know. It's really up and down. The one curiosity I've discovered in the years I've doing this, which was I have really tried to, whatever pre-investment I have in something, I've tried to just completely nullify it because weirdly enough, I have this, and that's nothing against it. It's just how the luck of the draw, which is like, you know what? My my energy worked out really, really well. It's like I love Star Trek Next Generation and I liked Star Trek Deep Space Nine very, very much, but I got along so swimmingly with the cast of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's just the luck of the kind of just how my our energy synced up and it all worked out. So it was just the way to it. But yeah, John Rhys Davies, great favorite. Love John Wesley Shipp because he's just warm and sunny and he just loves being there and just loves talking and stuff like that. I like playing straight man to Michael Rooker.
Yeah.
Um, on stage, he will beat me up a little bit, and but he knows, and that's something else about the job too. And I'm sorry, but all right, I'll be the straight man. So you want to smack me around, go right on
Well, that's
ahead.
your
So
job.
he'll,
Yeah, because they're there to see him, but you're there to support it. It's the Abbott and Costello thing,
yeah, literally.
Abbott never got the credit, but it's like, yeah, that's the tougher job of those. And
Although it's more like he's Groucho Marx and I'm Margaret Dumas. But yeah,
man, that's an old reference. We are too old to. One thing I do want to mention before we wrap up too is over during COVID, we mentioned COVID earlier. Really, this is what sort of kept a lot of this alive was the fact that you were able to do this virtually and have these reunions and keep these conventions going when we couldn't meet in person. GalaxyCon was doing it virtually. Just talk a little bit about that in the time we have left of just how amazing that was.
it again, adversity breeds, or necessity breeds invention. That was the case of, and again, hats off to Mike Broder, the owner of GalaxyCon. He quickly experimented for a while and tried to, okay, we can do this online, but he was very big on it has to be live.
Right.
Other chains were doing it, but it was all pre-recorded. And that, especially that first summer, we're like, hey, and NormoCon is going virtual, but everything's all pre-recorded. And if you want to ask a question, you have to tweet it in, and then maybe they would use it on the repeat or whatever. It was really big on we need to find technology that supports X amount of people, and also the monetization of it, which was okay, we're going to be able to sell autographs. We're going to be able to do the one-to-one chats, which was very important. And that's why I was always like, if you'd like to speak to our guests like I am now or purchase an autograph, please sign up at GalaxyCon.com, which was that I was the salesman that way too. It was me and Gene Okerlund. Don't delay, call that pay-per-view now.
Right.
I was doing that sort of thing. And honestly, that COVID was awful. And I'm quite sheepish in that it was if I sheepish in that it's like it gave me these tremendous opportunities, and I just wish it hadn't been at that cost.
Right.
Which is so it's so frustrating.
Bittersweet. No, I get it. I get it. But
yeah. So I don't want to say it was the best 2 years of my life. But
no, but
but
it gave us an opportunity to kind of do conventions without
it
doing
did, and it gave the really interesting thing was that it gave everybody opportunities for full reunions that were not logistically feasible for a physical convention. Like, okay, here's like 6 actors from the GI Joe cartoon, which in a physical convention, it's like you could fly in 1 or 2 of the A-listers from that cast, but getting all of them there, that had to be for a special occasion. That had to be a big thing. And sometimes they still wouldn't cover the way too. So, but in these things though, the sky was the limit. I mean, we just had so many like 90 shows and result too, and it was just, and everybody was just glad to be there, and everybody just had fun. And there were a couple here and there that were kind of drips, but weirdly enough, one guy who I thought was rather a bit of an ass, and I won't say which one it was. I ended up last year hosting him in person, and he was sweet as pie. And it's so much so that I even said, so when we did the virtual, I was like, oh man, I was going through a bad phase on my side. I'm sorry. I was like, okay, no, it's cool, man. It's cool. Which is something that is very important too. Like you can have a great, you can never, in this job, you can never say, oh, hey, remember me? We had awesome. I always wait to say, we've worked before, haven't we? I always let them, hey, I know you, don't I? We worked together before,
Yeah.
Yeah, I never want to assume
And John
that
Wesley
stuff.
Shipp does that at every convention. That's the amazing thing. All right. So GalaxyCon, it's everywhere, right? It's all over the country. There's so many of them. Columbus, yay. Where are you going to be next? So somebody watching this, what's coming up throughout 2024?
I'll be hanging out at Brick City Animate the
Because
February
they
10th and
do
11th.
animated shows now too, right? Like there's
Yes,
all
animated
these
way too.
things, right?
These are all the quick shows I'm doing. If you like William Shatner and you're in South Florida, he's going to be at the Biohacker conference. I'll be handling him. That'll be a fun thing also too, because there won't be a lot of fandom involved in it. That's a good opportunity to get more time with the two. House of the Mouse, Collectivecon in Jacksonville, which is one of probably my second oldest client. And then we will have GalaxyCon Richmond is the next big one on March 15th, 16th, and 17th. So March is going to be a pretty big one, and I can't even think beyond that. That's probably enough.
Well, we're going to think into December, right? December 6th through the 8th, 2024. You're going to be back here in Columbus? Are you going to be here or
I'll be in Columbus before that for Columbus Animate in June.
Oh, that's coming up. That's right. That's one's going to be there. Okay.
Yeah, they're at the 6 month mark. So any market where we have a GalaxyCon at the 6 month mark, we will usually have either Nightmare or Animate.
Okay.
And for Columbus, it's Animate.
That one's coming up. GalaxyCon is going to be in Columbus December 6th through the 8th. GalaxyCon.com. I know here in Columbus, I think friend of the show, Will Wheaton's going to be there, right? Coming up in December. I
I
believe he's
believe
going to
so.
be.
I believe
Yeah.
so. I get quote me on that. Is so far ahead for me, and
It's what I look forward to because I'm
no,
here.
no,
I don't
no.
have to go anywhere.
I get it. I'm like, okay, who's gonna be at this one? And even then, I don't start compiling my notes until like the Tuesday before because there could be last minute
Okay.
cancellation. I hate putting in the pre-work for a brand new guest that I never worked with before, and then they bail. So it's like,
I
which
agree. And
again,
that
that it's gonna happen. It's always gonna happen. But
it
yeah,
happens. They get gigs that come up too, but it is a lot of work that you put in. I mean, you're doing research, you're watching stuff, right? You're looking at things, you're trying to get quotes, past interviews.
I call it remembrance. No, I do.
So,
I do. I call it remembrance because a lot of it I was old enough to be around for,
yeah,
or oh yeah, I that's right. Yeah. Oh, this guy directed this movie. Oh, and this guy also directed this movie, which I interviewed this actor from, and he said that
right.
director was a complete nutball, kooky, whatever too. So maybe I got partly that. You did this film with this director. I've heard some stories about this guy. You got it. Oh, that guy. Yeah. Oh, I've heard the greatest words I can ever hear is, oh, I've never told this story before. When I
That's
hear that, I love that.
that one, and no one has asked me that before. That's another good one when you tap into what's the deepest dive you've ever done in that surprised the heck out of your guest? Do you recall something where you just dug so deep and they were like, man, I didn't even think we were going to go there?
Huh. Really, I think the first time I sat with Denise Crosby, I did ask her, so how did you book the Black Sabbath music video in 1978? And her reaction was priceless. She was just in faux umbris. Oh, you little and but she joked about it and she was down to it and we become friends since then.
Yeah,
So that was a good one. I've I've hit sometimes you get in a miss. Sometimes you could kind of break. That's why I'm always like I was like pretty clear ahead of time because sometimes I might bring something up and they never want to talk about it. Now, obviously, I'm not
got
going to
it.
talk about again, if I'm doing my job, then I should be able to get, okay, they didn't have a good time in this. I'm not going to talk about it or whatever. But just anytime that I myself or even a personal favorite of mine to be all like, you know what, I'll be the person. It's a wacky movie, but I really, as a matter of fact, case in point, we lost Carl Weathers recently.
Hmm.
He was supposed to be in Richmond. In my job as a handler, I was working a table, and he was at the table next to us. So I got to chat him up a little bit here and there, and I got to ask him about, hey, for what it's worth, I really enjoyed Force 10 from Navarone. And he was like,
Wow.
yeah, that's going back. And I could just tell that's not something he likes to talk about.
Right.
And I was like, well, I know you had like 5 writers on the thing. Oh, you heard about that. So, yeah, I did. We just jibber jabbered a little bit. So it's a case of okay,
Little nugget you dropped.
yeah, so there's that too. There's also what I call the hook moment where it's not so much that when they say, "Let me tell that story else too." When I say like, "Zzz, okay, I've got him now there too."
Yeah.
Uh, with Casper Van Dien, we're talking about he is very proud of his Tarzan movie, very proud of it, and because it was probably the closest one they've really done to the literary Tarzan. And he talked about how, as well, the Enterprise Borough Society some years ago presented me with the Dum Dum Award, which doesn't mean what you think. But just right away, I just looked at it and said, the Dum Dum Dance, which is a ritual that Tarzan and his gorilla buddies do under the full moon, and it's basically their version of going out bowling. They're like, "No, wait,
Right.
it's the Dum Dum Dance." But the fact that I knew that, and he looked at me like, it yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Another time was with Frank Miller, who is very and like a lot of comic book talent is not doesn't come from an acting background, so that is not bombastic or really too. And he was very yeah. I figured two things I figured out. One, he wasn't comfortable talking about things that he wrote and drew. But he was very comfortable talking about things he collaborated with. He was give me liberty and too. But I knew the moment I got him though was, and I've always known him to be sort of like kind of a beneath the surface. He's actually a kind of a patriotic sort of guy, and not
Mhm.
in that blind egoistic sense, but and I warned him up front too. So okay, we gotta go to the meat and potato stuff, talk about Dark Knight and talk about Daredevil, but I had this great moment when I was like, now when you returned to Daredevil for the Born Again run with Mazzucchelli, look, there's nothing I can say about that hasn't been said before, but I will say this much: everybody has called it one of the greatest Daredevil stories ever done, and I agree. But I maintain it's also one of the best Captain America stories ever. And he, at that point, he just sort of looked at me and he was like, "Thank you." And and that's when I was like, okay, I
Right.
got him, I got him. And he started looking at me at that point going forward, if everybody else did. So those moments that for me at the time particularly joyful. The other moments too, or anytime I could do something for a member of the audience that's special. If I can help someone who's a little starstruck or flustered or a little kid, and I'm always looking to make what we call a Disney a magic moment, which is there an opportunity that I can really go have fun with it? When David Tennant was talking about, oh, I just did a new photo shoot for a new cardboard cutout to replace the old one I did. Like, oh, it's over there. Oh yeah, it says later right there. Lady always had it, so I brought her up on stage. Let's bring it up, show it off
Nice.
for everybody too. I'm always about and that and they trust me. They trust me to bring somebody up too. Anytime I can bring a kid up to the stage, it's a crowd pleaser. Everybody's gonna
Yeah.
be into it too. So I'm always looking for the at the end in the line, like, okay, I'll listen to it. All right. And then I'll come up to a mom with a kid. Did you have a question? Or did they have a question? They have a question. Okay. Would you be all right if I brought them up to the stage and asked them up there as the end? It's like, oh yeah, that'd be fine. You always gotta ask. Wait too,
Right,
all that
right.
stuff. But yeah,
But it's creating those moments. I think it's creating those
yes.
moments because because the conventions are getting so expensive these days. It's when you can capture that moment with the celebrity or somebody they're really looking forward to meeting and give them that, or give the crowd that moment too. They enjoy it
And
too.
that's what it
I
is.
think
The
it's all
crowd
about.
will be behind. If you do something
Yeah.
nice
Yeah.
that people aren't used to seeing,
Yeah.
they're gonna think it's
Not
cool. They're
just the
gonna be like, oh
machinery.
wow, yeah,
Right.
exactly, and not just like, okay, hi, what's your name? What's your question? Oh,
Next,
yeah,
next,
yeah,
next. All right, sign this, but yeah, move forward. There's
yeah.
too much of that. So,
Which unfortunately the other like the photo apps have to be that way and stuff like that, and
yeah,
so
they do, but sometimes you get the right ones. I know I did one with Lee Majors, and it was just like he was really fun. He just
oh
it
no, no, no,
is
they'll
quick, boom, 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 but it's
yeah, you don't. Yeah, at the table when if you're getting an autograph, I always say you get your interaction, which is like
yeah,
you can say hi, you can ask a question, you get this way too, okay, fine.
yeah,
The photo ops, not so much, but I always tell everybody that's where you got to come up with something. When I used to do photo ops, before I went over to this side of it too, I've got several, and I always had fun with it. The very very first time I ever did anything with Shatner was at a photo op. And I'm waiting my turn. And then it's like, okay, next. I walked on in there. I had my coffee. I was like, Bill, thanks for waiting. Hey guys, look, we got to get this in one take. You have no idea what I'm up against. Okay, Bill, are you ready? Good, guys, ready? You're ready? Okay. All right, let's
yeah.
do the, and just goofing around. But it got him out of and then I did like a crazy face. It was like, what are you doing? He looked and he saw what I did. He smiled, and then they took that picture, and then
Well,
this
when
was
you
back
can get them out of that factory
that
assembly line,
1,000 yard without
right?
screwing up the factory. That's the big
Right.
thing. You're like, how can I do
It's a
this
skill,
without not making it that way too? So it's
right?
always about making the most of your photo. If you want to just go on in there and stand next to him and go that way too, cool, dandy. I just tell everybody at least take your lanyard and turn it around or something like that.
Do something right.
Or when I'm taking pictures of when I worked at the table with Jonathan Frakes, I'll always take, okay, you want to take a table selfie? Okay, I'll take one, two, and then I'll do a Dutch angle, and then there you go, there's three for you. And we got all that fun stuff. But
Yeah,
again, it's just all like, how can I do more with the time and the resources that we've got?
right.
You know,
Yeah, it's an amazing it's a skill. Well, what's the old Michael Keaton line? It's a skill like anything else, right? So,
it really is,
Patty,
and I'm the first one to admit that I put probably way too much thought in this. I tell everybody, look, at the end of the day, I'm like one of the world's most proficient bag boys. It's like, yeah, it's great that I'm good at my job, but I probably the first one to think I've overthought it. But here we are.
now, I mean, somebody's got to do it, and you do it with a skill set that's higher than most, and I appreciate it because you're doing it so often, and you can tell the work that you put into it. So, continued success. We look forward to seeing you at all the Galaxy Cons. I'm looking forward to meeting up with you again in person here in Columbus. Thank you so much for joining me today on Comic Book Central.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.